A2 Media Theories, Feminism and Queer Theory. What is feminism? Feminists in the 1960s and 1970s were the first to identify the limited representations of women in the media. Feminists argue that social divisions benefit men in terms of work, education, wages, and access to political and economic power, and that this power imbalance is reinforced in the media's representations of women. A woman's role emphasised as being a domestic one, or as showing them as mothers, carers, or housewives, for example. Laura Mulvey, 1975, was a prominent feminist who contributed to the idea that women are represented in a way which emphasises their sexuality and physical appearance. Mulvey argued that mainstream Hollywood films were the product of a male-dominated and controlled media industry, and she identified Hollywood films as having three common ideas or trends. First one. The men controlled the action and were responsible for moving the narrative along. As you can see here, most heroes are male. Second one is that women are represented as passive objects for the male gaze, so that they are there merely for men to look at. That's all they're there for. They don't really get involved in the action too much. Her third thing was the pleasure of viewing comes from voyeurism, narcissism, which is the identification of an idealised image of oneself, being in love with oneself, so to speak, and psychophilia, the pleasure of looking at other people as objects rather than people. Okay, so that's what she identified. Your homework is to pick 3 Hollywood films and identify how each of Mulvey's ideas are demonstrated in those films. One of the things you can also think of as well with the voyeurism, how many times in a film has the camera lingered on a female character getting undressed, which serves no narrative point other than for her to get her clothes off and the males to be very excited about this. There you go. There are a lot of criticisms of feminisms. One of those is that many films do not support Mulvey's idea of a passive heroine. For example, in more recent films like Casino Royale 2006, the women portrayed in these films are not passive objects, but are active heroines who are integral to moving forward of the narrative. However, the female lead is still a glamorous actress who is sexually appealing to men. Furthermore, the camera encourages the audience to view the women in a voyeuristic way, as I've discussed earlier about the camera lingering on the female character getting undressed or moving around, etc. Soap operas. Another one that actually is against this is soap operas. They're often women's issues, and I use that term loosely, are central to the plot. So, for example, Coronation Street, EastEnders, they often focus on women's being the centre, being the main focus of the plot. So what happens? The woman drives the plot forward, which goes against what Mulvey was been saying. Gammon and Marshman, 1988, suggested that the female gaze, men are objects for women as well. So there's actually been a move towards a female gaze where men are represented a particular way. Think of when we did the Heat magazine and we looked at torso of the week, etc. And that's showing men in a female as objects for female gaze. They also suggest that women engage critically with text. So they're not just passive, but they're active. They will select and interpret the representation shown to them, so they won't just buy what's being shown to them. There is post-feminism. What is post-feminism? They sort of said, as there are more opportunities and the changes in opportunities for women in society, they argue that feminism is no longer relevant. It's moved on. They see many media texts as taking a playful and irreverent attitude to the traditional gender divisions of the past. They make fun of it. It's not serious. Judith Butler, 1999, who's a post-feminist, and she suggests that gender is socially constructed rather than down to biology. Male and female behaviours are constructed and reinforced by the media in our culture, so the way to behave is in a particular way. It's shown by the media. She argues that there are a number of exaggerated and tongue-in-cheek representations of masculinity and femininity, and we will look at this in class, so don't worry. She also says that there is an idea of gender trouble, a behavioural representation that disrupts culturally accepted notions of gender. So there are deliberately people are mixing gender boundaries An example of this is Amy Whitehouse, she who subverted the ideas of femininity in her choice of wearing retro dresses and long hair, so that emphasised her femininity. But her tattoos and excessive partying lifestyle that she led made her seem more masculine, so therefore she was mixing the two, going across the boundaries there. Queer theory, moving on to queer theory, which links into Judith Butler, known as a post-feminist. There's been, basically, because there's mixing of genders, this is what's led to queer theory being used as well. I would like to point out this is what the theory is actually called, so I don't want you to sit there and think this is a bit of a joke. This is a real theory. This theory explores and challenges the way sexuality is constructed. For example, in looking at gay men and women, for example. In Hollywood films, they often portray heterosexuality as normal and happy, and the character's always happy and cheerful, while homosexuality is represented as a sin or sickness. The characters are often ill. It's not seen as normal. The theory challenges the traditional assumption there is a divide between being gay and heterosexual. So they're saying that actually it's much more fluid than that. There is no binary opposites. You're not homosexual and heterosexual. Actually, they link together very nicely. Yeah, that's an important thing to remember. A good case is Captain Jack Sparrow, for example, from Pirates of the Caribbean. In this film, the character uses an over-the-top performance of a pirate, including wearing an over-elaborate costume, eye makeup, camp gestures, and he avoids conflict. He runs away, which kind of puts it at odds with traditional macho images of a pirate. He's actually mixing the two, sort of feminine and masculine there. The change in attitude towards homosexuality in recent years has given some credibility to queer theory's suggestion that there is a more open and fluid approach to sexuality.